format here, we started streaming these live to YouTube so folks from the public could still observe if they would like. Okay, last thing I need to do is read our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure of the hearing. And then we'll jump right into the presentation of the applicant's case. So this is the November 3rd, 2021 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the City of Cincinnati. Now I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZH20210155. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing, unless a party has submitted testimony or evidence in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. Anyone from the public will then have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. I will give our zoning plans examiner, Trey Sheldon, an opportunity to provide any testimony if he would like. In the event any party testifies or offers, we have an attorney here today. If the applicant is represented by an attorney, the applicant's attorney may cross-examine any person who has testified at this hearing. If a party of record is represented by an attorney, the attorney for the party of record may present witnesses after the applicant has presented its case and may cross-examine any person who has testified at this hearing. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant shall have an opportunity to rebut that testimony or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. So just to sort of review that quickly, I'm going to give the applicant here an opportunity to present its case. That'll be Sean Suter. Sean, you can make arguments. You can ask your client questions directly, or you can just let him testify on his own. Once your presentation is complete, I will give Ms. Noonan and Mr. Tenjin an opportunity to provide any testimony that they would like. I'll then give Mr. Suter an opportunity as the attorney for the applicant to ask any questions of Ms. Noonan and Ms. Tenjin. I'll also give our zoning plans examiner, Trey Sheldon, an opportunity to make any comments, and Sean an opportunity to ask him questions. And then I will give Sean an opportunity to make any provide any rebuttal testimony, and then make any closing statements. So for the neighbors, you only have one opportunity to provide any testimony in this case, unless Mr. Suter asks you additional questions on cross-examination. So I like to just highlight that. If there's anything you'd like to say, please share it in your one opportunity for testimony. Okay. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents. This generally means evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who is not present at this hearing. In the event of any technical difficulties or unforeseen circumstances with the video conferencing technology, we'll do our best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect in the tech that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with the hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, I think that is it. The final thing we need to do is swear in all of our witnesses. So Mr. Tenjin, if you could activate your camera again. Anyone that intends on providing any testimony here today, asking any questions, making any comments at all, needs to be sworn in. So if that is you, if you could take yourself off mute and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Tenjin, do you have a question? Okay, thought you had raised your hand there. Okay. So we have another neighbor that's trying to join us here, or I assume it's a neighbor. So we'll see if we can get her going. What's that?
My wife is trying to join as well.
Okay, great. I'll let her in, and she can also participate. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Suter, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sturkey. My name is Sean Suter, Suter LLC, 455 Delta Avenue, Suite 203, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45226. I'm here today on behalf of the Hyde Park Golf and Country Club. With me is Nick Spadaccini, who's the president of the Hyde Park Golf and Country Club. He certainly is available to answer any questions about the pickleball shelter that is being proposed. The reason that we are here and come before you every time we're really trying to do anything on the property relative to a new structure is this property is in an SF20 zone, and the use of the property, which predates zoning, is a conditional use. So everything we do relative to new structures has to come to you at the city for your review and approval as a conditional use. This one in particular is internal to the site. It's 10 by 30 foot open air shelter, essentially used in conjunction with the pickleball courts. It is not visible really from anywhere else other than on the property. It's obscured by existing tennis courts and a wooded knoll that is 15 feet higher in elevation. So really, it should have no impact on anyone. It should be a positive for the club. And we appreciate Mr. Sheldon's staff report, and we agree with his conclusions, and are here to answer any questions or address any issues today. So thank you.
Okay, great. Is your client going to provide any testimony here too?
Nick, did you have anything to add or wanted to say?
I just believe it'll enhance the use of the property. It basically provides shade on hot sunny days. There is no shade in that area, and for the reason that we have a paddle court building so that players can go inside in freezing temperatures between games. That's a sport that's played outside during the winter. The same thing here in the summertime to provide a shade structure for people playing in 70, 80 degree or higher weather in between games. So it's more of a safety concern, health concern for the players.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move over to Ms. Noonan. Ms. Noonan, what would you like to tell me?
I really just have a question. I'm here as an observer. I heard Mr. Suter say where this would be located. I'm not as familiar with exactly where the pickleball courts are on the location of Hyde Park Country Club. Can you just sort of help me as a neighbor sort of understand where that may be?
Sure. So Sean, do you have the plans or any pictures that you can share that show that? I'm looking through the application materials right now.
I don't know if they can see this. It's
And
pretty
Nick will
small.
be able to answer
I have
it
it.
better than I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that in the application packet, Mr. Spence?
It is, and I'm going to circle it kind of loudly here. And if Miss Noonan knows where the tennis courts are, which is where I'm going to point. I don't know if that's going to show up well here. Tennis courts are here, and across from that is the pickleball courts, and there's a building over here, but in between the two pickleball courts is where it is, and behind it is the driving range, if that makes sense, Kathleen.
Yes, I'm familiar with the driving range.
Okay. And Kathleen, I remember you from 5 years ago at our big poles and netting. You came.
Absolutely. I
remember. I remember. Good to see you again.
Nice seeing you again. Thank you.
Yeah, folks, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here just quickly. Maybe this picture could provide some additional context. This is from the staff report.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, there.
Mr. Suter, do you know what road this is?
That's Erie Avenue.
Okay. It looks like the
And
3700 block of Erie Avenue. And I assume the pickleball courts will be over here.
That move it lower. Those four court right there in between. You see the lone car kind of parked by itself, that white area in the middle there. Those are the two pickleball courts. They're vertical to each other, and that white structure in between. Your cursor, make it lower, right. That leg, right across from that. The white spot across from that, right there. Bingo.
Okay. So it'll be on top of these courts?
In between those courts. in between that white spot.
Okay,
Dave-
let's be right
Dave-
here.
Hey, David, this is Trey. If you scroll down one more image, it'll do a highlight of it. There's a detailed image of where it's going to be located.
Right here?
That black
Yeah.
spot.
The black
That
spot
black
with the black
rectangle.
bit.
Got it.
Trey's
Okay.
right.
Okay, great. All right. So I'm going to move on to, well, do you have any questions, Mr. Suter, for Ms. Newman?
No, thank you.
Sure. Mr. Tenjin?
To speak. I'm pleased to hear that the safety of your folks is in order. That's good news. Our concern here from Saybrook Avenue is while the enhancements continue at the club for their benefit, there's been a few observations that we felt as though that our voice should be at least heard so that they know what's going on and can address maybe some concerns that perhaps they're maybe not that they're not even aware of. So the two concerns, and it does cover this subject as well. So for example, along Wasson Way, they have a fence that helps beautify their property and stuff, but yet the fence has never been finished. So there's this big gap in there that happens to be behind our house. And so it just doesn't look real good to the people walking down the wonderful Wasson Way. And there's often a lot of junk and a big gas tank there and things of that nature. So it just looks unfinished. I don't think that's the image that the Hyde Park Country Club wants, nor is it the image that Hyde Park in general wants. And then the second thing is that they tend to burn lights 24/7. And, the one light above that same spot by that gas station and whatnot is 24/7. And it's very, very bright. And in the winter months, since the trees are going to go away, it illuminates the bike path, our backyard, and everything else. And while I can appreciate the safety aspect, I don't see any need for it to be on 24 hours a day. I would call that light pollution. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for nature, waste of energy, even if it is LED or whatever the case is. And so my concern is they keep on building more and more structures, that the light pollution will just increase and the whole place is going to be lit up like, neon sign 24/7. And I just don't think that's the method that we need. Again, coming back to safety, sure, having your gas tank lit when somebody's approaching it makes sense. But at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. and everything else, I'm failing to see why we need to have that area lit up and creating a real bright spot in the backyards of all the homes along Saybrook Avenue.
May I speak?
No, not right now. You will
Okay.
have an opportunity, you will have an opportunity to respond on rebuttal.
No problem.
But now, Mr. Tenjin, do you have anything else you wanted to provide?
Those were the two highlights at this point in time, which was the unfinished project of the fence and the concern of light pollution.
Okay, great. Mr. Suter, any questions for Mr. Tenjin?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Tenjin, one question. So you're asserting that perhaps this project will contribute to light pollution on the property?
Yes, that's my concern.
Okay.
And along with and now I've seen the plan that helps lessen the concern of another structure being built that would be unfinished, but it looks like that structure would be pretty well hidden from the public. So that decreases my concern there, but I didn't really have an idea where that was going to be coming into the meeting today.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, I have someone here that joined late under the name Jody. Jody, if you could unmute, would you like to testify at this hearing?
I'm with Scott Tengen. So we're just both communicating at the same time. Basically,
So I'm sorry, Jody, if you would like to testify, it sounds like you do. I need your last name.
it's Tengen, Tengen.
Okay, and I need you to raise your right hand and answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead. What would you like to tell me?
Basically, just to reinforce the nature of the light pollution, the light that projects over the club is 24/7. It looks like a stadium, like you're going to Paul Brown Stadium or the Reds for a game. And it's 24/7. So even when the storms are going through and the horns are blowing for security and all that, the lights are on 24/7 and you can see them projecting out. I understand the security aspect, but at the same time, I believe it's unnecessary and it's harmful not only to the environment, but it takes away from the property values of the neighborhood.
Okay, anything else?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Sean, any questions for Ms. Tension?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Trey, anything you'd like to provide?
You've already looked at the detailed site plan. This is nestled kind of in the middle of all the infrastructure of that is already existing. There's a considerable paddleball and pickleball complex there already. There is a indoor area, like a heating room, I believe, that was approved some years back, a couple of years back. That's a heated structure, like a little locker room and area in there. And I believe this is going to be located right between existing courts. I believe Mr. Spadaccini could confirm, but I believe it will have no, from what I could tell from it, it will have no sides. This is like a pavilion kind of a structure of that nature. So it's kind of like a little park pavilion. It's only 10 feet wide and about 30 feet in length, and will fit right between those existing courts that are already elevated up in the air. So unless somebody's literally with a telescope trying to look at this, I don't see how there would be any adverse effect to it, given its location in the midst of that. It is in my staff report, I noted that it's many hundreds of feet away. If I can get an exact. Not only is it higher up, as Mr. Suter pointed out, it's significantly higher in elevation, about 20 or 25, 15 to 20 feet higher in elevation. And it's more than 500 feet from the nearest dwelling at Erie Avenue, and more than 400 feet from the nearest dwelling on the south side of Wasson Way, on the other side of Wasson Way. On Saybrook, that is. And unless something unusual is done here to make this lit up any more than it is, I don't believe any light poles were called for or anything regarding this. It's just the equivalent of a rain and sun shelter. And so I didn't see how there'd be any additional adverse effects that don't already exist due to the athletic complex there.
Thanks, Trey. Appreciate your testimony and your staff report. Mr. Suter, do you have any rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, rebuttal. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you have any? Would you like to respond to any of the comments from the neighbors? In particular, I would like to hear about the concern about light pollution.
Yeah, I'd like Nick to address that. I will say that I agree with the staff report. No impacts from this open air shelter on anyone, and the neighbors' complaints or issues that they raised aren't specific to this particular proposal, but more general about the use of the club. So Nick can address that.
I'd be happy to, and I appreciate the Tensions and Kathleen participating in the call, because we do want to be good neighbors. With respect to, and Mr. Tension, correct me, is it the wooden fence that you're referring to as being incomplete? I just want to be clear on that. On Wasson Way?
That's the one that you guys put behind your,
right.
I believe it's a maintenance building and where your
right.
Sand is stored for
right.
the traps. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So 5 years ago, when we were doing what we refer to as a legacy project, the big remodeling that was on that south side of the property, the driving range, tennis courts, etc. But as we abutted Wasson Way, we were asked to beautify that area by the city, and they specified so many rows of bushes, trees planted, a wooden fence structure, and then it was like an alternate thing, shrubbery and trees, wooden fence, shrubbery and trees, wooden fence. And I that may contribute to the unfinishedness to it, but that was what we were asked to do. I would be happy to look at some of the concerns you have where you say you're exposed to seeing things, because I wouldn't want you to see items that you referred to that were unsightly. So I'd be happy to look at that. And with respect to the light above the gas tanks, first we've heard of it running 24/7, and I'd be happy to address that. And I don't know the reasons for it off the top of my head. Is it security? Is it something that could be, how do I say it, a timer put on it, etc. Be happy to look at that and talk to my staff about it. But again, was first time this has come up. With respect to the project, as Trey noted in the plans, the shade structure is just a shade structure, range structure with no electrical in it, and shouldn't add any more light pollution. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think we're ready now for any closing remarks from the applicant and the owner. Mr. Suter, anything?
Well, just thank you for your time, everyone, today, and appreciate your review of this, Sheldon, and your report. Like I said, we agree with the conclusions, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we'll leave it at that then. I want to thank everyone for their time and their testimony here today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, I will have a decision out on this within 2 weeks. As soon as I finish that decision, I will put it into a PDF and I'll email it to everyone that's in the hearing today. And so you'll all have a copy of the decision just moments after it's complete. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to email me, or if the applicants or anyone else would like a status update on the decision. Again, please feel free to email me. I will caution though, I'm not going to accept any new testimony. I'm not allowed to. So if you want to continue to try to advocate for or against this case, none of that will be taken into consideration when I'm making my decision. So strictly procedural type questions only. Mr. Spadassini, do you have a question now?
I just wanted to have a concept. If Mr. Tenjin could give me his email so I can follow up with him, I'd be happy to.
Marvelous. Thank you very much. My email address is scott@tengen, TENGEN.US.
.us. Okay. Scott, I am out of town this week, but if you allow me to follow up next week, I appreciate it.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Ms. Noonan?
May I ask Nick if I'm allowed to have his email? I would like to be able to address something to him, not necessarily
Sure.
part of this meeting.
Sure. You got a pencil handy?
Yes.
N Spadassini, that's S as in Sam, P as in Paul, A, D as in David, A, C as in Charlie, C as in Charlie, I as in India, N as in Nick, I as in India, at hydeparkcc.com.
hydeparkcc.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good to see you again.
All right. Thanks everyone again. We will leave it at that. Hope you all have a wonderful day. We are adjourned.
Thank you.